Most people love to believe they're in control of their emotions, but psychology rarely plays fair. Tonight, you'll step into the shadows, where hidden instincts, unspoken fears and subconscious patterns quietly lure women into traps they never see coming. These aren't tricks someone plays on them. These are traps they walk into all by themselves. The first trap begins with a whisper inside the mind, a craving for validation. A woman might scroll through messages, refresh notifications, or reread old chats, not because she likes the man, but because she likes that he likes her. This is how emotional dependence grows without permission, quietly, gradually, invisibly. Real example, a woman begins chatting with a man she barely knows. He replies unpredictably, sometimes instantly, sometimes hours later. Her brain interprets the inconsistency as meaning. She starts wondering, did I say something wrong? That's the moment dopamine turns into obsession. The trap closes softly. The second trap is the fantasy projection trap. Women often don't fall for the man himself. They fall for the story they write about him. A mystery becomes a personality. Silence becomes depth. Minimal effort becomes, he's different. The darker truth? She becomes loyal to a version of him that never existed. A man barely reveals anything about his life. He just smiles, listens, and gives short, vague answers. She fills the empty spaces with everything she hopes he is. Her imagination becomes his greatest weapon, and she never realizes she's in love with a ghost. Trap number 3 is something psychologists simply call intermittent reward conditioning. The same mechanism used in casinos, but far more personal. When affection comes unpredictably, the brain releases stronger emotional attachment. Women often confuse emotional roller coasters for emotional chemistry. A woman dates a man who disappears for 3 days, then shows up at midnight with deep conversation and intense attention. She complains about the inconsistency, yet she stays, not because she trusts him, but because her brain is addicted to the uncertainty. The fourth trap is what I call the savior illusion. When a woman meets a man who appears wounded, broken, or misunderstood, something ancient awakens in her, the instinct to heal. She becomes emotionally invested in fixing him long before she realizes he was never asking to be saved. Here's where the darkness deepens. The more she invests, the harder it becomes to walk away. It's the sunk cost fallacy mixed with emotional caregiving. She convinces herself she's helping, when in reality she's staying because leaving would mean admitting the effort was a waste. Example, she meets a man who says, "I don't trust easily." Suddenly she makes it her mission to be the exception. Every small sign of progress feels like victory. She doesn't see the trap tightening, she thinks she's winning. The fifth trap is the scarcity mirage. Humans desire most what feels rare: attention, affection, validation, commitment. When a man seems difficult to obtain, many women mistake his distance for value. His silence feels like power. His minimal effort feels like exclusivity. In this trap, her mind quietly whispers, "If he's this hard to get, he must be special." Suddenly she's competing with a fantasy she created. The more unavailable he is, the more valuable her attention becomes to herself. She's not chasing him, she's chasing her own ego. Example, a woman swears she's independent. She claims she doesn't chase anyone. Yet the moment a man doesn't give her instant validation, she starts double texting, overthinking, and arguing with herself. She mistakes discomfort for desire. That's the subtle cruelty of psychological scarcity. Another layer hidden beneath the surface is emotional pattern imprinting. A woman may subconsciously gravitate toward the familiar, even if the familiar is toxic. Chaos feels like home, distance feels normal. She mistakes old wounds for natural connections. Example, she says she wants stability, but every time she meets a stable man, she feels no spark. That spark she's searching for, it's not chemistry, it's a trauma echo. And until she sees it for what it is, she'll fall into the same trap again and again. Then we reach the identity threat trap. When a man challenges her sense of self without attacking it, she becomes hyper-focused on proving him wrong. The psychological term is reactance. But emotionally, it feels like fascination. She wants to be understood. She wants to be seen. She wants to be right. Example, he says, "You're not as emotionally closed off as you pretend to be." She laughs it off, but the words echo for days. She thinks about explaining herself to him, justifying her behavior, showing him the real her. Without realizing it, she steps toward vulnerability, and he didn't move an inch. A final trap hides in plain sight, the illusion of control. A woman might believe she is studying the man, reading him, analyzing him, while never noticing he has already influenced the emotional pace of the connection. Control rarely looks like dominance. It looks like certainty, and certainty is magnetic. Example, he never argues, never reacts emotionally, never panics. His calm becomes her confusion. She starts adjusting her behavior around his emotional stillness. And before she even realizes it, she's the one dancing around his silence. These traps don't require manipulation. They don't require strategy. They simply require human psychology, because the darkest traps are the ones we build inside our own minds. And once someone steps into them, they start creating the chains themselves.